The claim I'm going to be responding to is political correctness creates a form of thinking that stifles another opinion. And the opponent's secondary claims is one, political correctness is widespread. Two, political correctness targets specific groups regarding gender, race, sex, or and age. And three, because of political correctness, some groups are protected and are allowed to vary away from being politically correct with no consequence, while others are left out to dry. And response to the first claim, political correctness is widespread. I have an evidence challenge. He said in his original that David Howard, an aide of D.C., was fired for using the word niggardly. But when I actually did research on David Howard, I found that one, he had resigned because of pressures, and that 2 weeks after, Mayor Williams, in a Washington Post article, stated that he had, I believe I acted too hastily in accepting David's resignation. And in the same article, David was interviewed by the author, Yolanda Woodley of Washington Post, and said that he had never felt victimized, and actually was, he said the silver lining in this is that everybody gets to see the issues that are still that are dealt with today, dealing with race, basically. And I think that this whole first argument is a little bit sensationalized. Political correctness is widespread is supposed to be an appeal to fear that, and to show this, the Pew poll, they had a survey which a group was asked general questions in 1996, and of that, only 7% actually knew the meaning of politically correct. And so that shows that people don't really know what politically correct means, so how can it be widespread? In the second claim, political correctness targets specific groups regarding race, gender, etc. I think it's begging the question, because the definition of political correctness is avoidance of expression or actions that can be perceived to exclude, marginalize, or insult people who are socially disadvantaged or discriminated against. So it's the same thing. It's targeting a specific group, because that's the whole point of political correctness. And he had in his argument, he had the Don Itmus event, in which he used the word nappy-headed hose, but and he used also rap music as his analogy. But the two can't really be used in the same context, because Don Itmus was commenting on a professional basketball team, whereas rap music is a fictional form of art or expression. And then to his third claim, because of political correctness, some groups are protected and others are allowed to stray away from being politically correct with no consequence, while others are left out to dry. I have Rush Limbaugh, a Republican radio talk show host, was quoted saying, "It's called Operation Chaos. The dream end of this is that to keep up the convention, and that we have a replay of Chicago 1968 with burning cars, protests, fires, and literal riots, and all that." So the Operation Chaos was where people were who were Republicans are supposed to apply as a Democrat and vote in the primaries in order to vote for whichever side is losing, so that the convention goes on in continued debate. And so with this, I think that political correctness is not widespread. Political correctness does target specific groups, because that's what it's supposed to do, and that political correctness doesn't protect people, and people are allowed to express their opinion as long as it's in the right in the right area that they're doing. And thank you.
All right, summarizing the claims at the beginning is pretty clear. The signposting as you go through the points, that's also clear. The challenge on the evidence on the first point, I think, is the strongest argument, where you've got a whole bunch of information about the one example that the advocate used. Then there were some general questions about the meaning of political correctness, and I'm not sure that it got you very far. On the second point, you discuss a couple of the examples, but it wasn't clear to me why those examples were not applicable. You said that they're not really comparable. You used the advocate used IMUS and rap music, and basically suggested that they're different. And I'm going, okay, so what's the impact of this argument? I couldn't figure out what point you were trying to make on that point. On the third point, I think I finally figured out the point that you were trying to illustrate with Operation Chaos, and that seems to be that people can make politically incorrect kinds of statements, and here's an outrageous example of somebody who's making a widespread politically incorrect statement, and so they're not really being contained by this. I think that's the inference that you're trying to draw there, but I didn't think that that came across as clearly as it could have. All right, Kimberly, let's have you.